in the Kyung University starting from 2009 to 2016. So glad to see other colleagues from Kyung University in here. And let me just starting my presentation with the topic of CSR, ESG, and how those strategy can be related to the sustainable business development. So even though Dr. could just briefly go through my biography, I can just retouch upon my biography and academic careers. So as I mentioned before, I was graduate from Kyung University, same major, hotel management from 2006 to 16. And actually I was in the dual degree program going to University of Houston. So I also had my bachelor's degree at University of Houston in the United States. So after moving to Houston, I moved to Michigan State for doing my master's, just like you guys. And then after finished that,
이제 측정 도구까지 분석이 됐고, 해당 측정 도구가 분석됐으니까 이걸 이용해서.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, it's fine. All right. So after finishing my master's, I moved to Penn State for doing my PhD, spending 4 years with the guidance of my academic advisor, Sokki, and I finished my dissertation and all the requirements for the PhD degree. And then I got my first job at University Surrey in United Kingdom, which is quite near to London. I know the Professor Ku have been there before, so you may know about the place. It's quite a peaceful place. I was expecting to spending at least several years at there, but somehow there was an opportunity to go to SEJONG University in South Korea, and right now I'm here. So I'm working as assistant professor in SEJONG University starting from this semester. So glad to see you guys are here after all. So today, as you are expecting from the topic in the title, so what I'm going to do is briefly discuss about what is CSR and ESG, which is quite similar to CSR, but growing more significance. So we will go through what is CSR and ESG, and also why CSR matters particularly in our industry, and how some CSR activities or initiative has been implemented in our industry. So I think given that you guys are master's student, you may heard about this term corporate social responsibility before. Given that this is just not one-way communication, one-way seminar, I want you to speak up and then present what is corporate social responsibility in your terminology. Anyone can volunteer to provide your thinking of CSR. No?
Ethical behavior.
Ethical behavior, that's correct.
Ethical.
Yeah.
Moral. Ethical, moral. For environmental protection, something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Professor Ku. So it's not a big thing or quite not a stranger thing. So when you think about the term corporate, it's something related to the corporation or the company. And social responsibility is something responsibility toward our society or community. So to summarize, this corporate social responsibility is simply saying the corporation's responsibility toward the society and the community that we are living in. So there are a bunch of definitions around the CSR. There are many scholars propose different definition of CSR, and also the industry practitioner give different definition of CSR. So one of the well-known scholar, which is Mac Williams and Siegel in 2001, they provide the CSR definition as like this: actions that appear to further some social good beyond the interests of the firm, which are required by law. So when you think about the underlying sentence, the expression beyond the interests of the firms and which are required by the law, the interest of the firm is going to be the maximize of the profit, of course. But when we're saying that beyond that is something like implying that it's beyond just making a big profit or maximizing the profit. And also, this kind of the action is not required by law. So they're not pressured to doing that, but they are doing it voluntary manner. So you need to think about this CSR as more volunteer things, but also it will be not just maximizing the profit, but something do better, do over than that. Here's another definition, quite similar but different. So it's a CSR. The European Commission defines CSR as responsibility of the enterprise. So they mention about the enterprise and then their impact on society, which is more quite simple. So this is another definition from the different organization, but they also are providing different aspects, such as the company should lead this kind of actions toward the society. So we also need to focusing on this as the company's perspective. So not just maximizing the profit, they try to create the value for their stakeholders and their owners and the shareholders as well. Here's another definition last time. So the World Bank defines CSR as behave ethically, which is Dr. Koo just mentioned, to contribute to sustainable economic development by working with relevant stakeholders to improve their lives in a way that goods business, sustainable development agenda, and society. So when we think about the terminology stakeholders, so the stakeholders including any kind of like group of people associated with the company, such as the suppliers, employees, consumers, government, and also any other investors that are interested in this company. So we need to try to develop a sustainable business practice and economic development that can be provided to the stakeholders. So that is another definition of CSR. So when we dig into the CSR, we have a different dimension of it. So it could be divided into 5 dimensions according to the previous literature. It could be the environmental dimension, which is concerned with the natural environment, such as the clean environment or environmental concern in the business operation. Particularly, the hospitality and tourism industry is classified as one of the industry actually provide many harmful impact on the natural environment. So that is particularly important for our industry to minimizing the negative environmental impact. When it comes to the social dimension, it's about the relationship between the business, company, and the society. So what we can do in this dimension is to provide something good for making the better society or integrate social concern in our business environment. The next one is going to be very straightforward one, which is the economic dimension. So as following the business, the purpose of the companies, we need to make some profit to provide shareholders or owners of the benefit. So we need to maintain certain level of profitability or improving efficiency of our business operations. That's also one of the dimensions of corporate social responsibility. And then the next one is stakeholder dimensions. Stakeholders is just 2 sides, just not one side. So stakeholders are also related to the company, but they are also the source of the resources that can be provided to the company. So we need to maintain a good relationship and need to satisfy the need of stakeholders in order to maintain a good relationship with the stakeholders. And that is one of the dimensions of the CSR as well. Last but not least, according to the definition of the CSR, is more voluntary purpose. So we need to be more ethical beyond the legal obligation, which is not required by law, but we need to do some kind of these things under the CSR umbrella.
Okay, Dr. Yeon.
Yes.
I have a question. Okay.
Yes.
According to the literature and the academic papers provided by the proven, well-known professors, probably suggest these 5 dimensions. I well understand. Nonetheless, how about the like a technology or regional dimension. The junior faculty or young research scholars, we are just referring to the good, journal articles, what they provide us to okay, this is the dimension of CSR. But however, as you know, there's corporate responsibility. It sounds like a legal action, legal responsibility. But these days, everything is well connecting, and everything is interaction diversely and brightly. In that case, like a regional base or technology base, it's not included these dimensions. Just question. It's not right and wrong. What do you think?
That's a good point, Professor Koo. I think given that the rise of the importance of technology, I think we should amend this dimension, because this is a dimension provided by one of the researchers in 2008, and it's been like 15 years after. And then I heard that there's one terminology called corporate digital responsibility, which has been quite cited a lot these days. And they are suggesting of the corporate digital responsibility, which is kind of similar to corporate social responsibility. So I think that dimension of the technology or digital things can be one of the dimension, can be possibly such as in this kind of dimension. So we can expand the dimension according to the current trend.
Yes, I understand. These days, the digital divide is very much a critical point, and everything is transformed to the digital way. And someone who are well controlled is no problem. But some people behind, or old men, or disabled, or poor family, probably they have not much chance to handle those kind of new technology, or like new devices. Then that would be social responsibility. Okay.
Yes. So I think from that standpoint, the company should reach out to the people who may not able to get a good access to the technology that the company can provide. So I think that should be something the corporate or the company should also consider when they are trying to develop something in a digital way. They need to consider the audience or the consumers that can use that kind of the services or technology based one. So that should be included in this dimension. I think that's a good question.
Thank you.
And suggestion. Yep. All right. So as Dr. Koo just mentioned, this dimension is something one of the researchers suggests, but we also need to consider the current trend of the industry. If we are trying to focusing more on some technology or digital base, we also need to consider that responsibility that companies should consider as well. So I will just move on to the next part, which is dealing with the growing significance of the CSR. So I don't want to repeat every details in here, but in general, the new generation, which is millennials, they are more concerned with what corporations are behave. So they're more focusing on whether the corporation is ethically proven, or they are doing better in an ethical way, or their operation is nothing to do with like making a harmful effect to environment. So they care more about that, and certainly they're willing to pay more for that corporation as a rewards. So we need to think about that consumers are increasingly focusing on the corporate social responsibility and their ethical behavior of the company. So like the statistics from the consumer side, many of the millennials are concerned with the social and environmental problems. So the company should bring the answers to this generation, because they are the ones who are actually paying for their service and goods in the next era. And also from the business side, they know the importance of the CSR and also ESG. So many of the largest corporations, they annually, they provide their ESG effort and CSR effort in their annual report. and even separately producing the industry report and their CSR commitment and ESG commitment. So that's the way of their communicating their efforts in the domain of CSR and ESG. And many of the companies, not just the international one, but also the domestic one, they also provide the report as well. So in both sides, the consumers and the business side, we all know the significance of CSR. Let's looking at one of the examples here. So one of the global company, international companies, Starbucks. So Starbucks is one of the representative examples that doing quite good on their CSR involvement and initiatives. So when you're looking at the CSR report, they mentioned that conducting our business in a ways that produce social, environmental, and economic benefit to the communities which they are operated. In the end, it means that being responsible to their stakeholders, because the stakeholders are the one they trying to reach out. When you're looking at the statement of one of the former CEO of the Starbucks company, they mention about many important things about like this. So they have a responsibility to multiple constituencies, and their financial performance should link to not just the profit, but also some of the behaviors of the company, and they need to balance between the profitability and their responsibility. So in many statements, the CEO letters or their personal statement provided by the CEO of the company, they will try to promote their goals or their agenda related to CSR and ESG things. Some of the representative example of the CSR programs and an initiative has been described in this slide. So, for example, the Starbucks is trying to supporting their local communities by providing education, training program, and even collaborate with the non-profit organization. They provide more voluntary services. And also, they try to educating and empowering workers. I heard from one of the friends in Starbucks, and they said that all the employees hired by Starbucks is the regular workers. That's not the temporary workers. So I think that's kind of the example that Starbucks is trying to value their employees. Last but not least, they also try to maintain a good level of gender diversity and also the minority issues. So they try to maintain at least like 40 or 50% of the minorities and even more of the women employees in their organization. This is kind of one of the way they try to show their commitment to the society, because the woman and the minority is kind of some group of people that ignored so far. So they try to be more responsible, integrating them into their organization. So I've been talking about what is CSR and what the practitioners doing with the CSR things. So let me ask you guys one question. So because you guys are studying in the field of hospitality and tourism, so if you think about the CSR, their purpose and their possible outcomes, what is one of the main benefits the company can take from the customers if they are doing good in their CSR initiatives? What the company can get in from customers if they are doing good in CSR? I think you guys are, yes, so sorry, go ahead.
I think they can improve their company's image.
Image, reputation, yeah.
Reputation.
That's exactly right. Any others? So reputation, image would be one of the factors, and also awareness, reputation, or even for the existing customer, they can bring out more enhanced loyalty from the customers, which is pre-existing customers for the company. So whatever you can do related to CSR can improve the brand image awareness. So if they doing more CSR, they can be reach out to the diverse group of member of the customers, and also they can increase their reputation. And for the customers who already buy the product, they can be maintained as their loyal customers.
I have
And
a
yes,
further question, reputation. Regarding reputation, actually, Starbucks operating in Korea by 신세계 Group or EMART Group.
yes,
The CEO of EMART Group is quite famous
yeah,
and quite famous and notorious as well. In that case, like reputation, they are trying to increase their reputation by CSR or whatever, and then CEO is just to pop up a very bad news or some strange news, and then CSR is I don't get any mind, wow, this is a CSR company or 신세계 Group, and then suddenly, what the heck? And so the CSR reputation effect is just gone away. So what do you think if there is a bad and the effect of the CEOs, they probably offset the CSR efforts, and the perception of the company is going bad.
that's a great question, Professor Ku. I think that is actually happening in the industry as well. So when we think about the CEO, we can divide into just like the CEO hired from the company or celebrity CEO. I think this case is kind of like celebrity CEO. And then the issue is that the consumers are trying to integrate the company and the celebrity CEO at the same time. So in that case, maybe if I were the group of members of 신세계, they would try to detach the celebrity CEO, which is Jong I think, from their any program related to CSR, because whatever he do however did he behave is something have a bad influence on the reputation of the company. So they try to just detach the but I think for my understanding, Jong Yong-jin is kind of thinking that he's owning the company. So I think it's quite not a good ideal case for the corporations to doing the business like that way.
Yes,
So
yes.
it has a pros and cons. Like if the company has a good celebrity CEO, they will moderate or they will enhance the reputation of the company. But at the same time, if the celebrity CEO is behaved wrong, that it will also affect on the reputation of the company. So
why don't you do some research about that? Like a Starbucks, they have been trying to increase their reputation by CSR efforts, and the branch of Korea, the Starbucks, the contractors, like a 신세계 Group, he is kind of doing the political behavior and offset their mother country's reputations. So it is going to be very interesting topic between the mother and the branch level, behavior, especially Starbucks case.
yeah, I think that's a great idea. So when we think about the relationship between CSR and the corporate reputation, we can think about that contingency factor as moderator or mediator.
Okay.
So we can include like the existence of the CEO, or sometimes the CEO is more political. So political representation, like either democratic or like either in a different part, that will affect the outcome of the CSR for the reputation. So that will be an interesting topic to explore.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Ku. So back to the customer's perspective regarding the corporate social responsibility in our industry. I want to point out these things because we are studying the context of hospitality, and we need to consider the characteristic of the hospitality industry. So the service or goods sold in this industry is something until we actually consume the service or goods, we will not know about the actual benefit of that particular service or good. So when we're selecting those goods or services, the image or reputation of the company is a big factor that affects our selection of those services and goods. So that is why I insist that particularly for our industry, the company's image or reputation is going to be very influencing factor when we try to select a company. So I want you to memorize these things, like, because we are producing intangible goods or services as well. We need to rely on the perception of the quality based on the reputation of the company as well. So that is why we need to particularly focusing on CSR in our industry or domain. Another benefit the company can take from investing CSR activity is going to be, we can ask them to pay more. So let me ask you a question. So when you try to booking a hotel in booking.com or whatever OTAs you are using, they in some cases they promoting their rooms are more environmental friendly, and they ask you to pay different option, which is a little bit more compared to just regular price. Are you willing to book that hotel which is more responsible, or if the room condition is more equipped with anything more environmental friendly things? Do you want to pay for more? Like,
My case is no.
any other opinions? Or do you have any experience that paying more for the hotels providing a good option for the environment?
Not
I think
more,
that
more money. I think it's less money.
Less money.
If okay, they prepared, or they try to raise some money from the customers regarding for their CSR report. In the case like me, I don't want to pay more the price. Rather, okay, why don't you give some discount? Then would be the more effective, rather than pay more.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
Lee, how do you have any other?
I think this is kind of like the trade-off the relation. So if I think this cost is much cheaper than I expected, so I'm going to pay more. But since I focus on the sustainability, probably I pay more. So it's based on the situations, not some personalities or some like background information they can give, as a professors mentioned before. Probably this just one of like the marketing strategies for them charging the more for the customer. Yeah.
Yes. So it totally depends on the preference or belief, or if you're the person who are more sensitive to environment, then you're more than willing to pay more for the premium, right? And then I think there's a general consensus for this one then. So regardless of the paying per premium, what if you have the same option, same price, but one hotel rooms are promoting that their rooms are more environmental friendly? Everything is same. Then I think no doubt that people are going to choose for the later case compared to the one without any environmental friendly things. So they actually cautious about the environment, and then that's our millenniums era. So what we need to do is going to promote corporate social responsibility that will be going to give some good impact on the environment. So that was from our customer side. If you are the employees, if your company, the company you are working in is doing something good for the society, then as an employee, if you, let's suggest you're the employee of the company, then what do you think about the company, the image? Of course, there's the company is going to be more involved? What do you guys think as an employee?
I hate.
You hate. Okay, because you think that the companies are investing into like something which is not important or not related to the employees' satisfaction or the working environment or something like that.
Okay, I'm directly like raise my salary. That's more important than
Yeah, of course, that's gonna be
the
biggest.
minor care.
Lee, do you have any question or?
I think so. It's related to environment, and also I'm from China, so actually there have been one similar very famous cases in Chinese, referring to the Nike. So at the time they claim, especially from the the country, they claim that like Nike have manufacturers in the Xinjiang area, so which is they using the child like the label. So this is against their like the employment law. So the customs do not purchase the product. So I think that this is one of the sales the cases related to they needed to care about like the whether they abusing the using like the child laborhood or the providing very good working environment or the good payment. Yeah.
That's a good case. I mean, that's an interesting case. Actually, I just remember one study actually investigate whether there will be a greater impact if the companies behave bad, or there's a great impact if the company is doing good. And the study, as far as I remember, provide the evidence that if the company is doing bad, that is more criticized and more impact compared to if the company is doing good. So there's like not a symmetric effect whether the company is doing good or bad. So given that the employees in hospitality is having a high turnover rate, so everyone is go and out, so hired and then left within like several years. So the high turnover rate is one of the problem we significantly in front if you're running the business in our industry. And I think the CSR can be one of the remedy that solve this problem of the high turnover rate and providing more retention rate for the employees. If you are the employee, such as the female or minorities, and if the company is trying to promoting their activities related to like solving some of the issues with the minorities or females things, then more likely the employees are trying to stay in the company, right? So the CSR, especially for the employee dimension, if they providing some of the activities that is particularly related to certain group of employees, then there will be having some of the positive impact on employees retention rate. And also in the last part of the diagram, this is actually the one of the model that I created from my previous study. And I was thinking of whether the CSR is trigger innovations in our industry. Because we are in the service industry, which is fueled by the human labor, if we're doing something good for our employees, then it will trigger the employees' innovation and their critical thinking or doing better in terms of innovation and how that affects the firm performance in the end. And I actually find the evidence that the CSR actually have a positive impact on the innovation of the employees, and that innovation of the employees actually positively influence the firm performance. So in a different way, CSR provide the benefit, retaining the employees and also empowering or providing the motivation of the employees to be more innovative. So there are some of the benefit we can get it from CSR from the employee's perspective.
Professor,
Yeah.
Ian, the model, research model, responsibility, CSR, possible influence firm performance. On the other hand, like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, car, they are doing greatly their firm performance well. Then they choose CSR. and with innovation. So this research model makes sense. I know that, but in opposite direction, firm performance as IV and responsibility DV through the innovation. Is it more makes sense, isn't it?
I think that also totally makes sense, because if you're performing, let me think about this one. So if your company is doing bad in their business operation, they don't have any resource or financial resource to doing the investment in corporate social responsibility.
Right.
So according to what the professor just mentioned, firm performance can be one of the DBs and one of the IBs, and then CSR can be one of the DBs. And I read several papers actually proposing that way in a different way. So it can be either onto just not one side direction, but also like two side direction. That totally makes sense to me. Yeah.
But you want to address CSR importance.
Yes.
As IV.
Yes. In my paper.
Okay, so like a selling point. Okay, hey, companies, you focusing on CSR, then you make money.
Yes.
That's the rationale of your paper.
Yes. So my rationale for proposing that way is going to be CSR. If we're doing better in CSR, then we can satisfy our stakeholders. And stakeholders are the ones who provide the resource to the company. Either the customers are buying the product, or either employees doing better in terms of their efficiency or productivity. So all these factors, I think, will be influenced enhancing their firm performance. But at the same time, what Professor Gu just mentioned is totally makes sense, and also several papers actually proposing that way. Firm performance will influence on CSR, because when you think about like small company or big company is doing CSR because they're making big profit, so they have the financial resource to invest. But if you think about the small company making a small profit, they don't have any financial resource to invest in CSR. So that kind of makes sense to me, that financial performance or firm performance can be one of the factors contributing to doing CSR. In other way also makes sense. Other students also get this point. Yeah. All right, so moving on to the next part is going to be, I like to just briefly go through what topics related to CSR in the literature. So when you think about the CSR in practice, there's a lot of topics I describe in here. So scope of the CSR practice, or the driver or barriers of CSR practice. What drive CSR to be happen, or what are the barriers we need to think about when we implementing the CSR strategy? And given that the CSR is one of the corporate strategy, the managers or the top management teams or board of directors are the ones who actually deciding whether the company is doing CSR or not. So it is important their perception of CSR, whether CSR is a good strategy, good investment, or it's just like the wasting of money. So that is also one of the topics we need, particularly related to the CSR practice. And then the marketing domain, we have a different things. And actually there's a lot of research has been conducted in the domain of marketing related to CSR. So in the marketing domain, they are looking at the customer loyalty as the outcome of the CSR, or their satisfaction level has been increased or decreased depending on the CSR investment, or their reputation, brand perception, or their customer trust. So all these topics related to CSR, especially in the marketing domain. So I want you to just briefly looking over what kind of potential topic you can draw from this CSR marketing studies. And last but not least, in the end, the CSR should be influence the firm performance, because the firm performance is the final outcome, final agenda the company should address in the domain of the economic dimension. So when we think about the firm performance, which is the final outcome of the company's business operation, it could be related to employee retention rate increase, coming from the CSR implementation, or benefit the customers, attract the firm as an employer, or increasing the job satisfaction of the employees, or making the employees more engaged in the company's business operations. All these possible outcomes can be drawn from the CSR as well. And my own research is more focusing on this one, corporate financial performance, which is the final bottom line profit of the company. Net profit, gross profit, or any kind of like financial performance coming from the CSR. And that is particularly my topics. So before we moving on to the ESG part, I'd like to briefly explain the current trend of the CSR. So the CSR is starting from the individual donation. When you think about like reading a newspaper, the one person is donating the money to the community. It's just a philanthropic activity of the one individuals. If you're expanding the philanthropic activities into corporate level, still it's a philanthropy, but it is called as CSR. So the different term we use depending on the level, whether it is the individual level or the company level. And the last one I want to stress out, this trend is being more strategic. So previously, companies think about the CSR as just one responsibility they need to do for the community. But these days, the companies are using the CSR as their strategy, actually promoting their business operations. So they try to be more strategic and they try to integrate the CSR into their core business operations. So in this way, the companies is trying to see the CSR as not just wasting of money, but as the one of the good strategy that can promote their business operations to customers and relevant stakeholders. Right, that was the part for the CSR, and then ESG is kind of quite similar one to CSR, but I hope you guys know about this concept or previously heard about this concept ESG, because starting from the last year, somehow all the newspapers are pronouncing that ESG matters, ESG matters, ESG is important. And all of the company look like doing something about the ESG, which is turned out in some cases are not. So, right, so ESG is the abbreviation of the environmental, social, and governance. Refers to the three central factors. These three central factors in measuring the sustainability and the ethical impact of the investment in a company. So when you dig into the three different factors of this, whatever related to the environment is going to be the related to the environmental dimension, such as the carbon emissions, energy efficiency, water scarcity. That's something about the environmental part. And then when you think about the social part, it's going to be more diversity or labor standard or product safety, which is also related to the working environment of the employees. And thus is related to the set of rules or practices. I think you may heard about the environment or social, but maybe not, most of you guys not heard about the governance, because given that you are not having any experience working in the company. So the governance is something I want to stress out more. So like I mentioned before, the governance, or sometimes referred to as corporate governance, is a set of rules, control, or policies or resolution to dictate the corporate behavior. So this is the set of structure or the rules that the company should follow in order to implement their corporate strategies. So the people actually related to this governance is going to be the top executives, such as the CEO, CFO, or top level managers, and the board of directors of the company, the outside board of directors or inside directors, or the board chairman. So those are the people actually related to the corporate governance. So what we just went over is just briefly go over the definition of ESG and each of the component, what that means to the business operations. And we need to go over the concept of ESG investing as well. So previously, investors are purely focusing on the on the business profit they can make from their investment. But increasingly, investors are required of companies to be more ethically responsible, because there are a lot of factors that make the business bankrupt if there's something about ethical behavior problem happens. Like the Lee Hao just mentioned, that if the company doing something bad for the child labor or doing some ethically unethical behavior, then the customer are trying to criticize the company, and that will be a huge impact factor, huge risk factor the company need to deal with. For that reason, the investors are being more the ESG. I mean, the investors are being more companies to be more responsible. And there's a lot of reason why we need to focusing on this ESG investing. The first one is everything is going to be more international. Everything is more connected. So the company is more internationally expanded. So whatever come out from each of the part of the world is going to be the risk factor to the company. And also, like I mentioned before, investors are changing. And in the earlier slide, I mentioned that the millennials are more concerned with the ethical behavior of the company, and they are becoming the main source of investor these days. So millennials investors are more concerned with the company's CSR and ESG things. So that's why the ESG investing is growing the significance. And then the last but not least, the technical things can be improved. So there's a lot of big data analytics, and the techniques has been developed to measure the company's effort in the domain of CSR and ESG. Using the big data, they can collect a lot of companies' data point, and then they can actually providing some of the measurement to measure the company's effort in CSR and ESG. So everything can be calculated in numbers. So they being more accurate, and they can provide more measurement that can be a critical point for investors to choose for the company's investment. So because of that technology has been improved, the ESG investing is getting more importance as well. Then the fundamental question after that is going to be, okay, we know that ESG is growing importance and important for the companies and for the investors. And what would be the benefit of doing ESG investing? Why we need to do the ESG? And there are a lot of sources in providing the evidence that the ESG if the company is doing better in ESG, they can provide more better profit from their business operations. And this is one of the sources coming from the MSCI, which is the organization providing the ratings of the ESG, and they produce a report and they provide the evidence that if the company is doing better in ESG factors, then they are more likely to get higher profit from their operations. So the higher profitability is one of the factors that why ESG should be implemented. Another one is going to be the lower tail risk. So given that this is not a finance course, the lower tail risk is something called the risk which is quite not common and quite not expected. So whenever something unexpected happens, they said the companies who's doing better in CSR or ESG can be more protected by those kind of the risks. So that is one of another factors that ESG can be enhance the lowering the risk of the company. And in a similar vein, the systematic risk can be reduced by investing more in the ESG or CSR. When you think about the systematic risk and unsystematic risk, the unsystematic risk is something particularly influenced on the company, and then that is something we can diversify. If you're having many business diversified in a different continent on different geographical location, we can lower the unsystematic risk. But for the systematic risk, is something that was happening to all of the business in that particular industry. So that's something we cannot avoid. If that kind of happens, then this ESG may be provide in protection role for the company to lower those systematic risks. And this MSCI report provide the evidence that ESG, doing the better in ESG company is going to be more valued in terms of the investors' valuation of the company. Any questions?
Question.
Yes.
Question. Very fundamental question. Like a corporate social responsibility and environmental social governance, quite a similar concept, even though their similarity exists. The why someone probably invented these keywords and why someone keep boosting the new concept derived from CSR. I think CSR is much more longer than ESG terms. But as you know, I pretty much argue about these kind of terms. As you know, the climate change is going bad continually, and the Israel war occurred last week, and the Ukraine and Russian war still going on, and then US-based companies they dominate the world, and so this is kind of I feel like a textbook terms rather than practical, practice. So, and then the researchers like us keep producing the causality between the CSR and the firm performance, and that's why we have to choose the ESG government and CSR management or whatever. So, what do you think about this? Is it reality there is, or just someone want to make more money using all that behind the terms?
That's a very good question, and that actually make me a little bit of shame because I'm the one doing the research in this field. But at the same time, I recognize that my academic work maybe nothing to do with the reality in the industry and the society is going on. So it's quite hard to say that.
No, it's important terms and important, the agenda for our future. Less fossil fuel uses and try to protect our environment. And so consumers are much better knowledge of environment, and then try to buy something good for the environment. It's because of like you and because of like me, we keep producing the good teaching material and research outcomes. But nonetheless, the yesterday and today is the things is oppositely happening again and again. So it's even though somebody said, oh, the terms of ESG is essential term for the future, but current, well, people getting killed continually. So it's a philosophical question, not the research question.
Yeah, I think that's something we need to think about as a researcher who doing the research in this field. But I think the terminology itself is something we can promote the ethical behavior of the company. Because in a way that we're producing this CSR or ESG term, at least producing this terminology is going to giving some awareness or significance of the ethical behavior of the company. But at the same time, if that does not well with the current situation and ongoing issue with what's going on in the industry or the society, that we need to be more cautious about like writing the articles and all. So yes, that's a great and fundamental question. I will think about, need to explore more and think about more. Yeah. Great feedback. Thank you for your suggestion and comment.
Because CSR and ESG, the academic terms, is for your research main domain. So anyway, you have to give your own rationale to the customer or to the employee, to the students. Okay, as a main main researcher.
That's right. All right, so sorry, but let me just move on to the research part, because a lot of you guys more, I think, is kind of getting what is CSR, ESG, and why that is particularly important in our industry. But from this slide, I want you to introduce some of my publication, which I'm feel like a little more shame after getting the question from the Professor Ku. But
No, it's just.
But at the same time, I'd like to give some of the explanation of my previous work and my ongoing project. And as a researcher who keep doing the research in this field, I want you to think about some potential topics you can explore or you can apply to your own research. And then I will conclude my presentation after that. So I have, as I mentioned before, along the many topics related to CSR, I mainly investigate the impact of the CSR on the financial performance of the company, given that the CSR is one of the corporate strategy, and the main purpose of the corporation, even though we are saying that we need to do our responsibility towards the stakeholders, the main responsibility is going to be making profit and maximizing the value of our owners and shareholders. That's the basic and main things to do for the corporation. So based on that point, I was curious about whether doing that CSR activities is going to enhance the corporate financial performance. Of course, when we're doing the research in this field, there are a lot of relationship existing between the corporate financial performance and the CSR. Some saying CSR enhance the corporate financial performance, and some say there's nothing to do with CSR and corporate financial performance, because there are a lot of factors that influence the corporate financial performance. So what I tried to do was I tried to incorporate the contingency factors as moderator or mediator to see whether the CSR in the end can enhance the corporate financial performance. And these are the three publications employing that the contingency factors, such as the founding family members' involvement in corporate governance, or, as I mentioned before, the mediating role of employees' innovation when enhancing the corporate financial performance, or hiring the outside board of directors who can provide the resource to the company to enhance the outcome of the corporate social responsibility. And reckoning on the point that I mentioned before, that ESG or CSR can lower the risk of the company. During the COVID-19, we all know that the company in our industry having huge negative impact by the COVID-19. So what I was trying to investigate is going to whether the company, if they are ethically doing better before the COVID-19 start, that kind of giving you the insurance-like protection role or the reward for the company to mitigate those negative impact. So using the data point for the pre-pandemic sustainable ratings, which is CSR score, I investigate the companies, whether if the company is doing good on the CSR score is going to be mitigate the negative impact of COVID-19. And actually, I found the statistical evidence that if the company is behave ethically before the COVID-19 start, their stock return is going to be not that hugely impacted by the COVID-19 compared to the company, nothing to do with the doing the CSR things. So they provide the evidence that CSR actually matter when the investors are evaluating the company's their value of the company. And then the more recent publication actually investigating the last 20 years of the articles in CSR and the financial performance relationship, suggesting that there are a lot of potential relationship can exist depending on the company's situations and industry and so on. So this is the commentary article that I published in Tourism Economics. And here are some of the ongoing projects that I'm doing in the domain of CSR and ESG. So given that the diversity matters in our industry, I try to incorporate diversity into the top level management structure. So if we have more diverse managers in our top management team, will that be effect on the corporate social responsibility's impact on financial performance? And also I investigate the role of the institutional investors, given that they have a huge impact on corporate decisions and behavior. And the last one is one kind of related to my dissertation. So I was thinking that CSR actually influenced by the resource of the company. And given that the company have a different resource at their different life cycle stages, such as the company is going to birth and growth and being stable after having some of the market shares, and then going to decline after that. So based on that perception of the life cycle of the company, I try to investigate whether the CSR is necessary in certain level of stage of the company. So I'm still investigating this impact, but I saw that each level of this life cycle of the company is targeting different stakeholders. So based on the stage of the company, they are targeting different stakeholders because that particular stakeholders provide the critical resource which is necessary for the company in the particular life cycle stages. So based on that point, I investigate the differential impact of CSR on firm performance. So these are some of my ongoing works. And if you try to do some research in this domain, I like to suggest some potential topics that I think of mine in the domain of CSR and ESG. So previously, we work on the impact of CSR and financial performance. But at the same time, when you think about this topic from the marketing perspective, the way to communicate the CSR is also important. We need to promoting what we are doing from the company's perspective. Previously, the company is more focusing on just targeting the wide range of audience, just general public. I think the company should be more strategic, more deconstructing the stakeholder, wide range of stakeholders into specific group of stakeholders, whether their targeting is employees, investors, general public, or even the non-governmental organization or the government agencies. So depending on the audience of this CSR messages or promoting the CSR activities, we need to differentiate their how to communicate with those kind of particular stakeholders. That was one topic I want to explore, and I want the future researchers to explore. The next one is going to be the communication style. So previously, the companies are promoting their CSR activities through their annual report or newspapers or just in the broadcasting channels. But these days, we have social media. So it can be two-way, just not just one way, to promoting their activities. So what I suggest the companies to do is going to promoting their CSR into social media channel and then getting the feedback from the audience and modify their campaigns or enhancing their campaigns, CSR campaigns based on the communication with the stakeholders or audience. So you can incorporate the social media platform to promoting the CSR messages. And that is particularly one other topic I want the future researchers to explore. And the next one is going to be related to the ESG. We know that ESG is all important. However, there are a bunch of measurement and bunch of rating system providing the ESG evaluation of the ESG. So we need a more standardized generalization of the measurement of the ESG. We need a kind of like all agree upon one specific standard or the rating system. So that will give you more clear idea of how the company is doing good in ESG domain. And also we can compare the company's ESG effort with the multiple industry, with the multiple corporations. So we need to think about create one measurement for ESG ratings. The next one is, given that the ESG and CSR is getting more importance, a lot of companies are just doing something which is not actually providing a good influence on the environment and the society. That is called as greenwashing. You may have heard about this from Chun before, the greenwashing. They try to promote their CSR, but they're not doing good. So for example, changing the name, logo, slogan, kind of things that they're nothing to do with providing the good things, but they promoting that even after changing their brand name, they are doing good. And also they provide some of the statistics or the graph that cannot be proven. So, and then also display some complex data. So we're not able to get it, but they're saying they're doing better and better every year. So those kind of the tactics are called as one of the act of the greenwashing. So we need to be cautious about that. As a researcher, I want you to explore this topic of greenwashing and how that greenwashing will be punished or criticized with the investors or the potential customers. Those are some of the potential topics I want you to explore.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
Like a greenwashing. These days we can cope with very much green colored logo, green colored, the bags and sort of things. But there is pretty much image, the kind of a image politics, image, strategy. But I frequently use EDIA in front of our building. The EDIA, they are providing the straw. Straw is manufacturing by the paper rather than the plastic. And I saw the something mixed behavior, but their bottle still using the plastic. And they also still using some other the plastic made the tissue and sort of things. So I think whenever I see the straw made by the papers, which is a good effort, but the other component and the items still remain the same way. So I'm as a consumers, as a researchers, I'm got a curiosity. What the hell he is doing? Those companies doing is if they really choose that green politics and strategy, they have to change their other stuff as much as possible rather than just one item. And so my question is, what do you think if the company change one item like a straw, and someone just showing off, okay, logo, slogan, sort of things? Have you ever investigated before the actual usage or just the logo image or whatever? So which one is more effective to the consumers actually?
For my understanding, I think better than just showing the logo or change the name, I think providing the actual things that actually provide the customers is going to be more effective. That's my personal understanding, because that's something actually make the change of the behavior of the consumers, even though still some people are not prefer to using those straws or think that that is useless. But at the same time, at least they provide the opportunity for customers to be more responsible. I think that is more effective compared to just change the logo or something, because that is not just, that is something like the one-way things, like the company just promoting. But providing the paper-based straw is going to be something actually by the opportunity for customers to also be participating in those kind of like initiatives. So I think that should be more effective if that is actually not the greenwashing things. And I have one very funny experience these days. So the company Apple, they are also the one company they're promoting their the ESG or CSR things in their operations. And somehow I think that is kind of the greenwashing, but when you buy the newly designed product of the Apple, they try to minimize the one that accompany with the product, such as the cable. They disappear the cable, and they think that is one of the way they provide the environment. From my understanding, that is not the one that I think this is ethical, because they actually at the same time they drawing the cable, but they're selling the cable at the same time, right? It look like they're kind of like maximizing profit, but nothing to do with like providing the environment.
That's what I'm telling you. The mixed behavior happening a lot.
So we as a customer need to think about the sincerity of the company's behavior, whether that is actually doing good for our environment and society, or just to like behave like that, but not actually having a good influence on us. So we need to.
So research question can be like this. Okay, here you go. The straw made by the papers. Okay, so one is good things. Another is still remain the bottles made by plastics. There's the mixed, the strategy. So for me, probably I don't trust them. I don't trust their sincerity. I don't trust their honesty. It's something showing off. So for me, it's sometimes people I gotta wonder it is really effective to their financial performance with just one sampling behavior. The mixed showing up probably would be worse than the honest behavior.
I think I couldn't expect the possible outcome, but I think there should be a good interesting study to explore. We can set up a 2 different scenario with the one with the plastic straw and one with just without the one, and then we can compare whether that factor affects the customer's behavior or intention or perception of the company or not. So that will be an interesting topic to explore.
Good.
Thank you for the suggestion. I think a lot of topics can be generated in the context of CSR and ESG. I think my this presentation helped the audience to explore some of the potential topic or research idea, and you guys, it will be helpful for your master's study, everyone. So thank you for your listening to my presentation. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And if you go to the website of Sejong University, you can certainly find me out. So you can certainly reach out to me whenever you have any questions or request any kind of the resources related to this topic. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. Students give you a question to him, whatever.
Professor, I do have one question.
Sure, many questions, good.
Thank you. Go ahead.
One question, many questions.
Okay, like really to
Where are you from?
I'm from China.
You're a student of our school?
Yeah. So
Which department?
Marketing.
Marketing. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to briefly introduce myself. So like my name is Li Hao. I'm from China. Now I'm taking the master degree major in the marketing in our business school. Now I was writing my graduation thesis about like sustainability application in the tourism. So at first, I really wanted to thank the professor, the crew, which has allowed me to join these wonderful classes. Actually, I learned a lot from global leading researchers in the tourism. So that helped me a lot. So as for today's lectures, I was very excited to directly having chances to talking to you since your research area is focused on the CSR or ESG or risk management and also strategic management and so on. So I'm interested in those areas, so especially from academic speaking. So also I'm working at one of the middle-sized company in Korea. So our company providing the ESG and the CSR marketing solutions for the Korean small and middle-sized companies. So thanks to your speech, I do have one questions about like how hospitalities related the business, especially for the middle-sized companies, taking strategic ESG or CSR practice in their daily business for the risk management. So as mentioned before, I was very excited to join your lectures and do a lot of homework about your past research and reading several the journal papers you're writing about the U.S. What public treat the U.S. the tourism and hospitality the form the pre-pandemic CSR activities among the stakeholders. I guess whether formalize a good effect to oversight the negative the concept of the COVID-19. So also in these articles, it's mentioned some the Chinese scholars research about the hospitalities forms the CSR activities during the COVID-19 and their financial performance. So from this moment, I wanted to share some the specific cases referring to the real world. So at the early stage of the COVID-19 happened in China. So Chinese government, they have very strict like regulations for this pandemic prevention, so which is called dynamic clearing or dynamic zero COVID-19 policy. So which is shut down all the city and not allow the people to go out. And the central government also appointed one of the biggest daily delivery companies named Ele.me. So the English name is Are You Hungry? So as official suppliers to deliver daily supplies such as food, fruit, or vegetables to every family. So at the time, this company they did one CSR campaign. So which is they call all the every delivery man or drivers to join their business. So no matter those delivery man or drivers from their competitors, such as Meituan or Ding Dong Carryman. So as long as those drivers are willing to join it, they can get very good payment. So like this company gained a lot of the reputations of social capital from this strategic like sales campaign or sales corporation. So similarities to some hotels, like the Four Seasons hotels, they providing the free the living, the rooms for those delivery men and also drivers. So as the result, those hotel again a lot the loyalty customer from this pandemic. So this is the cases happened in China to demonstrate how strategic ESG or the sales practice being very important to tourism industry for respond to external like risk or global crisis. So my question is, combine your past researches in the pre-pandemic sales applications in tourism. And is there some general guideline for those companies to adopt the like strategic ESG or the sales applications in their business for the risk management, whether this is before the pandemic or during the pandemic? That was my question.
So, okay. So, I mean, thank you for providing good like examples from the industry because I think it will be better to understand whether that CSR ESG matters, particularly during the COVID-19. So just try to ask you the question. So your question is just
Sure.
compare. Yeah, go
My
ahead.
question is like, your research is about like the pre-pandemic some the CSR some events. So, but the cases I sharing with you, they during this COVID-19. So my question focus on, do you having some guideline how the company they having some strategic management to respond to those like the natural disaster or whether this is a COVID-19 whatever, like the procedures.
Okay, great. I get the point. So the first one to responding to it's not a question, but like to explain why I using the pre-pandemic CSR score compared to the one example you use is going to be like the CSR activities during the COVID-19. So many research in CSR is thinking that CSR impact on firm performance have some lag. So if something good happens, if that happens to the financial performance, it's going to take some time to be happen. So that's why many of the scholars understand that CSR is like more long-term investment compared to just the short-term investment. So that's why I'm using the pre-pandemic one to explore their impact on the financial performance. That's my kind of excuse. At the same time, because of the data has been provided up to the point of COVID-19, I was able to investigate the pre-pandemic CSR score to the pandemic stock return of the company. So that was my first explanation for using pre-pandemic one for my research. And then for the guideline, because you mentioned about you are working in the mid-sized company, based on my dissertation studies, which investigate the life cycle impact on the CSR, I think for the company, especially for the small and medium-sized company, which is called as SMEs, they need to identify their key stakeholders, because ideally the company can satisfy all the stakeholders is going to give you the best benefit of the company from the CSR. But due to the company has a finite resources, they need to particularly focusing on the key stakeholders, which is more important and can provide the critical resource to the company. So not the guideline, because I have a limited experience in the industry, but what I can suggest for the industry practitioner is going to be identify your key stakeholders around your business environment and try to prioritize those stakeholders compared to the general stakeholders. And then particularly if the CSR is targeting those particular key stakeholders, there might be some of the activities they need to do more compared to other CSR activities. So that is kind of like my suggestion based on what I found from my previous studies.
Okay, very good.
Does it make
Very
sense?
good.
Thanks for
Okay,
your detailed explanation.
Thank you for a great question. It's very, very helpful. Yeah.
Is rather than questions. Okay, any other students? Mm-hmm.
I want to get a question from Korean student as I presenting my work. Yeah.
Wake up, Korean. Yeah. Ooh. Okay, I'll try to be a student. You're a student. Okay, CSR is quite a grand concept. Even ESG is more grand concept. So it's very, very, hard to investigate on. Actually, the CSR and ESG closely related to firm performance, especially.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with your question, because CSR is a very big concept. And then what I do when I investigate the CSR is going to be, the first one is deconstruct the dimension of the CSR. It has a different dimension: employee dimension, customers, community, or environment. So
Yes.
particularly focusing on one specific dimension is the starting point to investigate the CSR, from my understanding.
Mhm. And also, one more point is actually CSR and ESG is a bit more minor dimension comparing to the manufacturing or organization behavior, marketing, MIS, or whatever. It's an essential one, but still, companies especially, they want to make more money using of their resource and their management rather than CSR. So if that is true, so why you're particularly having interest in CSR, the ESG, at this point?
Yeah, thank you. So the reason I try to be interested in CSR is because, of course, the companies, the goal is going to maximize the profit, but at the same time, if you think about the company's life cycle or their history, they are operating their business more than like few decades, if that is the case for the big corporations. And I think the CSR can be one of the factors that make that happen, like make the sustainable business growth, sustainable business development. So I think that could be one of the way that, because the company is doing the business within the society. So if the company doing the responsibility to the society, I think that will be huge impact factor for the company to keep doing their business within the society. So that's why I became interested in this topic, not just because my advisor is also the big researcher who's doing research in this field, but at the same time, the CSR and ESG is growing more importance. So that's why I chose this topic to investigate.
Okay, good. Okay.
Any other?
As long as student don't get a question for you. Okay. Good.
I have a small question. As you said, you are focused on the financial performance from the CSR, but I think the non-financial aspect, for such as you mentioned, the cost, company's reputation or the image, firm image, something like this, the non-financial aspect is very important for the company. But I think it is very difficult to measure. One of the way to measure this the financial aspect is kind of a survey. But I think it is very important that these financial aspects changes to the financial aspects in perspective of companies. So, and I think that regarding to the CSR, it is very difficult to change these non-financial aspects to the firm performance. I mean the growth or the profit. So my question is how to change this or the effectively measure this non-financial aspect in perspective, academic or practical. Yeah,
that's a great question. So let's say the financial performance is something, the financial outcome, and then the non-financial outcome is going to be like the reputation or retention of the employee or customer satisfaction. I think I totally agree with your opinion about like the non-financial factor is also important, and that can be one of the factor actually influencing the financial outcome in the end. So what I can suggest is going to be, because when you investigate the relationship between CSR and financial performance, we're seeing that as a black box because there are a lot of factors influence that relationship. And one of the factor, I think it could be the non-financial component, such as the one that you suggest, reputation, or the retention or loyalty or something like that. There are a lot of studies investigating that non-financial factors, and the most of the research has been conducted using the survey design. So what I can suggest is using the mixed methods to explore the non-financial factors. And then if you can incorporate those non-financial factors as a mediator between the CSR and the financial performance, I think that would be one of the studies that can be possibly published in the journal. I think there are a lot of studies that actually investigate those relationships and also considering that contingency factor, the non-financial factors.
My continued question, like you know, CSR and the firm performance usually is we as a researcher we using the panel data, the periodical data, last 10 years and last 5 years, and probably we can try to find out the effect CSR behavior or CSR strategic movement or ESG. Have you ever investigated on panel data about certain companies or group of companies?
Actually, most of my publication using the panel data.
Okay.
So I know the student maybe heard about the panel data. So that's the panel data is something like we are investigating number of companies, but for the multiple year from like longitudinal perspective, not just like just one specific time. So we are collecting the company sample from like over the like 20 or 30 years of the financial data to see whether the continuous CSR investment is affect the corporate outcomes, which is financial. So most of the time I'm using the panel data.
Okay. So have you investigated on the methodology like econometrics and DID sort of things?
Yes. So actually, given that this is the presentation about the CSR, but I also using the DID, which just Professor Gu mentioned, which is difference in difference. Other publication investigating the regulation effect is using the difference in difference design coming from the econometrics to see that whether the regulation passage is effective before and after the regulation passage. I think that is particularly important when we try to evaluate the regulation impact.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Oh. Student, any questions? Okay. Speak out. You have mind. Myung-jun, what do you think? Good.
Yeah, I got a question in the chatting, like asking the question.
Okay.
For small and medium-sized enterprises, the social activists than the large companies. I think the benefit of large companies to doing the CSR is they can promoting the activities more to the bigger audience or the general public. And then also the other factor making hard for small medium business is going to be the financial resources. So I think for the small and medium business, we need to change their mindset because still some small and medium business think about the CSR as just philanthropic activities, just giving the money to the community. But based on the strategic perspective of CSR, we can persuade the small and medium enterprise or business to incorporate the CSR into their operations or also promoting their CSR in a more effective way, such as they try to provide a different channel to promoting their CSR activities like the social media, or they can provide some of the activities in the region they be doing the operations So I think that is kind of the way that small and medium business size enterprise using the best benefit of the CSR.
We have another question from chat.
Yeah.
UK case.
UK. Just saying yes, it's not a question. Good example. Sorry, but actually, I mean, first of all, I'm not in the UK anymore, and I was staying in the UK for a year. So I'll good practice case tourism. I know that they are doing many things about the ESG. Not the practice, but they have a huge fund for providing the opportunity for the enterprise to implement the ESG and CSR. They have a huge fund. So they have a very good financial support for the industry or companies to implement. But for now, I couldn't think about any good practice of the tourism industry in the specifically for the UK, but they are doing good in their ESG things, especially not just for UK, but also other European countries are doing good in terms of ESG. So there might be, if you search for the good practice for not just for UK, but also for the European countries, you can find out good practice compared to the case in South Korea.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't get the clear answer for this question, but
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. If not, I will ask. Okay. You have a bunch of publications recently, and you're still junior faculties. And here is several, PhD student and postdoctoral student. And as you know, the publication record is most keen on the researchers and PhD students to achieve their lifetime goal or professorship or whatever. So what is your advice for our students and through your experience in US?
Okay, that's a great question, and I hope, I mean, everyone has a different situation. For my case, sharing my own experience, I was doing my PhD during the COVID-19. Some said that the COVID-19 actually doing the PhD during the COVID-19 is quite hard because of everything has been locked down, and due to that reason, some students actually go back to their home country. But I was the one who actually stayed in the US for the whole COVID-19 period, because I think as a student, we have a limited time for our PhD or masters, and then to make the best outcome of the PhD is doing the publication. So when everything has been locked down and everything has been like more e-learning basis, so every class has been canceled and delivered in a Zoom, I think that is a good opportunity for me to spend more time on research, because I cannot waste any time except for doing the research. So I make the best use of the COVID-19 situation to make more publication. That's my just personal story. But for you guys, because it's already post-COVID session era, so what I can suggest is going to be, I think the research, of course, Professor Ku have many more publications, more well-known scholars, so he can provide more good tips or guidance, but what I can suggest is going to be read many articles, as many as possible. I think every idea, every rationale, every evidence is going to be coming from reading the articles. Of course, due to my business, I mean, I'm quite busy with like preparing everything, class, research on everything after moving to South Korea. I try to spare time, at least like 1 or 2 hours to reading the article and what's going on. We need to keep up with the trend. Especially for the research in our field is quite trendy. So everything has been come out very close to the industry trend. So we need to be keep up with the trend, industry trend, especially for like social media or technology things. And if you're spending more reading the article, what I can suggest as a tip is going to be not just reading the article, but highlight some of the sentence you can use for your future reference. And you can organize and download the article and organize based on the topic or based on the research method. If you organize every articles in that way, you can use that article for your future reference. It's a more efficient way to writing the article. Writing the article is not just writing the novel, like every sentence is like making by myself. We need to refer to the reference. So the more time you can spend on reading and also organizing the research article, that will save you time to writing the article in the end. That's some of the practical tips I have.
Good. Wow. And anything else?
Professor, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks for your great presentation for this part. And I have a question. I'm wondering that how can the companies identify consumers who has the same demand, who has the same value with the ESG values?
Same value
with the ESG values. So I think if the value align, consumers are more likely to be inclined to pay for that value, and maybe they want to pay more money for that. So how can we identify those kinds of consumers?
I think the one of the way is going to be they can investigate their main market segment and also main buyers of their product, and then they can do sort of like market investigation or the survey to identify whether their consumer is cautious about the ESG or CSR things. To identify that things, they need to present a new service or product to whether their product is actually matters to those kind of consumers or the general public more in a broader sense. I think that is one of the ways to identify whether the consumers are actually interested in CSR or ESG, particularly related to that company.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Professor.
Thank you.
And we still a bit more time. Any questions? Okay. I will ask you one more. You said you're using panel data, and
Yes.
you did analyze DID and econometrics method. I think you are also doing the experiment design by survey based, no?
Not actually.
Not actually. Wow. But you know how to do something.
Yeah.
What do you think? They combine the mixed method with the experiment design and panel data.
So when you think about the research method, we have 3 different things. So first one is going to be quantitative one. The second one is qualitative, and we have a mixed method. I think still the easiest way is going to be just choose one, especially for the quantitative one, because the qualitative research design is quite quite hard, and then it takes time, effort, and you need to be the expertise in that one. So I highly recommend to go with the quantitative one. For the question that Professor Ku asked is going to be using the two different design of the experimental design and the panel data approach. I think the experimental design is more microscope, and then the panel data is more the macroscope. So think about that as a research idea, as like we can formulate the study one as the experimental design to explore whether that factor matters. And then after identify those factors, we can expand the scope to the business or company level to investigate those factors actually matters in terms of the business performance. And you can certainly refer to the company's data when you're doing panel data setting. So you can observe the company's outcomes throughout the years for the last 30 decades or something to see whether that is actually a factor that influenced the outcome. I think mixing with the experimental design and the panel data is a good approach to handling the two different scope, like macro and micro.
Very good. Like you know, like a corporate responsibility or strategic, you know, the options sort of things is quite firm level, you know, dimensions. So when you do the survey design, we absolutely need to ask the question from the that level, like a branch level or some upper level, you know, management. So, and then we can find out something, the effect or result from the large volume of data. But in this case, like we can be able to get a causal and effect of from the branch okay, respondent design the experiment, like or yeah, consumer level, individual level as well. So the experiment design give us to something like the causality or influence, the why factor or the motivation factor or sort of things. And then we can finally investigate on the result of the corporate results last 10 years, how they changed.
Yeah, the biggest benefit of the experimental design is what just Professor Ku mentioned about the causality. So we are making the scenario and we are trying to strict the setting to find out the causal relationship between the variables. And after we identify the causality from the variables, we can expand the scope. Of course, when we are employing the panel data, we can use some sort of the quasi experimental design. And I think PID is also one of them. Of course, the causality coming from that quasi experiment is a little bit less significant compared to the experimental design, but I think it gives some sort of like the causality to some extent using the quasi experimental design. Yeah.
Okay. Student, one last chance. Any questions? Good.
Professor, I do have one question. So actually,
short.
Okay,
not long.
Okay, my question is about the trade-off relationship in the tourism. For instance, we having the features. One is called haldenic features, so which is related to customer purchasing some product just for emission, or some utilitarian, some product goods just focus on the practical function. Simple cases when the customer buy a car, they can choosing buy luxury car, but just not for the, like physical function. Or they can buy a normal car just for go to the company. So referring to the tourism product, so many situations kind of facing. For instance, as our beginning of this classes, you mentioned whether they're gonna pay the more to go to the green hotel all they can do choosing very cheaper, but the other things is very good. So this kind of like trade-off, they needed to choosing one side but losing other side. So my question is, like, if I if I wanted to like investigations about the trade-off in the tourism industry, so which part you think is appropriate, for instance, in the transportation or in the hotel or in the food consumption? That's my question.
Trade-off. Mm. I haven't think about that perspective from the tourism product, like transportation things. Do you have any thought, Professor Ku, like for this one?
Yes, something like this. If I were host of the Airbnb and I posting on my room, okay, I'm going to do some ESG or CSR or ethical sort of things behavior. So I'm going to give my the price a little bit more, okay, because I'm going to save our earth. Does it make sense? Probably it makes sense for consumer who have high interest in that kind of stuff. So if we choose this CSR or ESG, which means it's extra cost. But companies they will choose either way. No, they will try to pursue the trade-off effect. I know that, but why you keep choosing that ESR or CSR strategy, even though their trade-off exist? That is now is consumers, they are much more education. They are, and they are well understand the world is changing more, should be changed, proactive, pro-environment and climate change, all of the things. There is all education aspect. So education, the consumers probably prefer to the CSR companies rather than normal companies. Even then the companies they will pay off. They got paid off from that kind of aspect. So probably like the hotel industry and hotel, also they can adopt some pro-environment behavior for saving, world and sort of things. And then consumers, if their prices are almost the same, not slightly little expense, they probably choose, oh, this hotel is ethical or pro-environmental or sort of things, and okay, at least just a $10 box is expensive. It's okay. But
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I was thought about the one examples in the tourism product, such as if you're using the Google Flight, I think this is maybe not the case of what you just request for, but maybe when you try to book a ticket from the Google Flight, you can see that there's a CO2 emissions along with the price of the tickets and journey. So I think that kind of give you like information about how your journey when you're using the airplane is going to impact on the environment, and that's going to be also something like trade-off with the price of the journey. And then I think that might be the case.
Yes. And then these days, due to the climate change, the Antarctica and their snow is melting down, and then tourism industry, like coast side and the coast, they were destroyed sooner or later due to the climate change and the water flow of all of things. If we show that kind of evidence and phenomenon to the consumers are afraid of that, and then will pay a little bit more. Okay, save the world or sort of things. We are not sure, but people are well aware of that. This phenomenon is happened now. So like the Florida or like Maldives, they are all selling their beach and coast, and they have to be, prepare for the kind of stuff. But they have no choice. But however, they're showing off that because directly they influenced from that climate change.
Yes.
Then probably consumers react their strategic movement. Okay. All right. That's the whole matter of the research questions.
A lot of research question has been proposed during the presentation, so that's a good thing.
Yes, yes. Okay. Professor Yeon, thank you very much. Today is 2 hours long seminar and lecture for our students, which is very impactful. And my students they will very much knowledge of CSR and the ESG because of your lectures. Once again, thank you very much. You are in Seoul now. Someday we'll have some dinner together.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your participation. Even on Friday afternoon, like 4 p.m. I know I was trying to reschedule this one to earlier time, but due to the conflict of schedule, I was not able to do that. But I sincerely appreciate all the students to coming here. As a former Gyeonggi University student, I'm very happy to see you all and very proud. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice Friday evening and weekend.
Yeah, have a great
Let's
weekend.
go to the bar. No more study.
I'll keep in touch. Thank you, Professor Kyu.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Hey, Yosef.
Hey,
Where are you?
Professor, I'm doing good. I
You
am
are
in
moving
Portugal
to
now.
Portugal?
Yeah, exactly. I am
Good,
in
good.
Portugal.
You are in Portugal now.
Yeah, I cannot activate the micro because I am in the hub and there is some noise. That's why I cannot
Okay.
activate the micro.
So
Sorry.
that is your new job in Portugal?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I am visitor researcher for 3 months here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I have submitted my paper to the conference for South Korea.
I see. Please submit to Journal of Smart Tourism.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Thank you, Professor.
Okay.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Professor.
Thank you all the time you
Bye-bye.
coming.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.